Are you there?
Hi,
Hey,
So good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
good. Thank you so much for still being willing to pop on with me. I have so many questions to ask you today.
I'm
I'm so
excited.
excited. Me too. I'm so excited. I started the live. You guys, this is our first. This is my first live. Ashton is seasoned by this point, but we're so happy to have you guys on here. Today, we're going to be talking about so many different things. Ashton is incredible at helping people do a proper prep for like competitions, right,
Yes,
Ashton?
thank you.
And I'm so excited to just like pick your brain and hear more about how you keep people healthy because I think I see people in the chronic complex state after they have done something wrong. So I think it's so cool that you're doing preventative medicine and I just really like want to hear all about it.
Awesome. I do recovery side too,
Cool.
but
Cool.
if we can prevent it, then we'd rather prevent it. And yeah, that's the way to go.
So can you just tell everyone a little bit about you and what you do for a living, what got you started into this field?
Yeah, so I have been programming for other clients for 8 years now. I've been coaching in the online space for five, and I got my professional fitness model card in 2023, and I actually transferred federations. I started in WBFF, but then FMG was born, and it just aligned with me a lot more. So I decided to make that switch, and I found a gap. And there is no sort of coaching that seems to compare to mine. And I think it's a big change that we need to make because so many women just collapse afterwards and then they never go back to it, or they silently suffer and don't want to say anything or just keep pushing through. And eventually there's a cap. You're gonna break. And I went through my own struggles. And while my prep was great, it was afterward that really broke me. The stress just piled up.
Mm.
And finally, I had one more thing added to the pile. And after that, it was just all downhill. And I am grateful for it because it uncovered a lot of health issues that I had. And I just kind of put them under the rug and I thought they were normal. And sure, they might be common. That doesn't mean they're normal, though. I just feel like we're not talking about that enough.
Isn't it crazy how something can be so common and then we normalize it in our heads and then we're like everyone's like doesn't go to the bathroom every day, right? And it's like no, you should be going to the bathroom every day or or ever like for me I suffer from rosacea and I'm like everyone just puts on makeup and like hides that, right? No, that's not it can be
Yeah,
common but it doesn't mean it's normal
exactly.
and so I love that. Yeah. What is the biggest challenge that you see for people who are going through prep? Because it's very rigorous on like your mental health and like your emotional
Mhm.
body and your physical body.
Yeah, so there's a lot. I think one of the biggest things is body image because you're working for this maybe 2 minutes on stage. That is your peak. That is what you're trying to hit. And you get super, super lean, and it's not healthy by any means. And I think that's something that's not really understood, especially when you're scrolling through social media. You're like, good grief, I wish I could look like her. I wish I could look like him. And what they don't understand is it's not actually healthy. It's not sustainable. Afterwards, since you have seen your body in that body, you have a hard time going back to putting on what would actually be a normal and healthy weight. And I know that I struggled with that, but I also struggled with when I was so lean. I didn't even like myself so lean. I couldn't get over the fact that I thought I looked gross, but at the same time, I absolutely loved it because it showed all of my discipline and hard work. And that's something else that is overlooked too, is that hustle mentality is not sustainable and it runs us into the ground. And there's different ways to be sustainably disciplined, if that makes sense. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's the mental resilience there. You have to manage the stress. I think what a lot of people overlook is your digestion, the sleep, the social pressures. It all adds up. Just even the little things like financial details behind your
Mm-hmm.
prep. It's expensive to compete. I wanted this to happen for myself, so I pulled out a credit card. I said, it's time. I'm doing this for myself, and we'll worry about that later. But yeah, it's very stressful in a lot of ways, and I don't think people going into it really realize that.
Yeah, like to be honest, like I've seen friends go through it, but and just see the mental crash that you're speaking about, especially with body image. I don't even know how to address that because how do you keep somebody from, not seeing what you see, which is like a beautiful person standing in front of you, and you just want to be like, I just want to hug you and show you that like you're still worthy, even if you're not like in your prime, like what you saw on stage, but you're still worthy. And I love like going back to what you just said about taking out a credit card, like you got to do that stuff for to make your dreams come true. And things cost money, so even for health and for prep for all of that. So when it comes down to how you approach working with men and women in prep, is there similarities, is there differences?
The big difference is women obviously are a lot more complex. We have lots of
Yes, we
layers,
are.
lots of hormones. There is an emotional tie to everything with us, whether we want to admit it or not. If you don't have that problem, congratulations. I wish I were you. But yeah, men, I do coach men as well, and that's not something I market as often, but I do love a man in my program. They're just so much easier because we don't have menstrual cycles to work around. And honestly, I think the emotional tie to body image, once again, and food is just a lot harder for women.
Mhm.
And we just emotionally attach to everything. And often with women, we come up with more excuses not to train, not to eat a certain way. It's, oh, I have to feed my kids so I don't have time to show up for myself.
Mhm.
And the thing is if we don't show up for ourselves, we can't show up for our kids, our husbands, our work. We have to show up for ourselves before we can show up for anybody else.
Yeah, that's so true, so true. And I love what you said about men versus women. Like yes, we have menstrual cycles, and men are like the sun. I like to say men are like the sun, and women are like the moon, because like we go through different phases, just like the moon. Like we have a 28-day cycle that's not very typical for everyone, but we say women have a 28-day cycle, and men are like the sun. It's like they regenerate after 24 hours. And so I think that that really highlights like the two different approaches. It isn't like a one size fits
Mhm.
all. So when
And
you're
every
first.
woman is different too.
Yeah, yeah. So what's something like when you are first working with somebody, can you walk me through that, what that looks like from like at the very beginning, like you find out their goals, like maybe they want to better improve their body but also show up for their children. Like
Mhm.
once we are able to get over that like martyr hump, what do you find works really well for them? Like deep diving into their health history and seeing how to like maneuver that. I want to hear so much more from you about that.
So my first question for every female client is, when was your last menstrual cycle? That's just huge and overlooked. And I know personally, I have been to so many doctors and they've never asked me that. And little did they know, I hadn't had a period in 2 years.
Mm.
And that tells you a lot, does it not?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I that is always my first question. And then if they're experiencing any sort of gut issues, like how are they going to the bathroom? Are they regular? And once again, I have never heard of any personal trainers asking that, and that plays a big role in everything too. And obviously medical history, that's very important. We want to know if there's any sort of ongoing illness or disease. And obviously if it's something much larger, then maybe it's not the right time for you. And something I really emphasize in my training is we need to honor that season of life that we're in. So, like, for example, as badly as I want to compete right now, I know that's not what's best for my body. I am still in a healing phase of life. And if I don't go through fully with this healing phase, then I'm not going to be able to show up as my best self
Mhm.
on stage or in life. So, yeah,
Yeah.
just really understanding what your body needs and how external factors in your life are going to coincide with what you're trying to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so beautifully said too, because when I'm working with patients, they'll say like, I want to do everything, throw the whole kitchen sink at me. And I'm like, no, we have to really start low and slow because we're in it for the long run.
Yeah.
It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so it's how do we make sustainable changes so then you can get back to optimal health. And I think that I definitely was one of those patients too. I had chronic complex diseases, so like I totally get it. Isn't it funny how like we both get into this field because we want to be what we couldn't find
Yeah,
after
because
that?
you realize it doesn't exist and
Yeah,
it needs to.
yeah.
But to bounce off what you were saying, a lot of times what we have to realize is sometimes you have to go backwards in order to go forwards. It's hard to mentally wrap your mind around, but we need to be in it for the long run. It's sustainability, and sustainability is not something that is really known in bodybuilding, and that's what I'm trying to change. Is I want this to be able to be a true lifestyle, because when I was in this in the beginning, like before I was coaching bodybuilders, I always said that I lived the bodybuilder lifestyle, but little did I realize that it wasn't actually sustainable
Mm.
eating on such a low calorie deficit. Like that was not okay. Like I said, I had lost my period for a long time, which I do want to flex the fact that I was able to get it back on my own
Let's
because
go.
because I was finally thrown some hormones when it was recognized, and I was like, no, I don't want to take this. And it was crazy. They were filled with things, believe it or not, that were just unnecessary, and it just wasn't for me. I'd rather do everything naturally. So
So did you take HRT? Is that what you ended up having
absolutely
to do to help?
nothing.
Oh, good job. Can you
You
that's amazing. Can you speak more about things that you did to work on getting your menstrual cycle back? It's so interesting. I feel like there's themes in life, at least like by like the week or the month, and been seeing so many patients recently that don't have a period.
Mhm.
And they're like, what's happening? And I'm like, well, there's so many reasons why you couldn't have a period. So I would love to hear how you do that because that's incredible.
Thank you. I'm really proud of it, actually.
Yeah.
So, first off, I had to mentally realize that I was not honoring my season that I needed to be in.
Hmm.
And I was pushing too hard, even being at one point, I was 8% body fat, and I was still working out really, really hard and not eating. And obviously, I'm not going to get my period back if I'm not feeling my body. My body's not feeling like it can sustain a baby. So, mentally, I started saying out loud, I'm feeding my baby, because I do want to end up pregnant. And so
Yeah.
for me to tell myself that I'm not just feeding myself, I'm feeding my future child, that's what really kicked it in gear for me. Is it wasn't for me anymore, because I have a hard time doing anything for myself, but as soon as it comes to doing something for others, you got me. So I one just started eating more in general. Something that I feel like was a misconception in the beginning on my part was that I needed to eat a whole lot of fat. And
Mhm.
granted, I was eating healthy fats. I do have a digestive disorder, and I have a really, really hard time tolerating fats.
Mm.
So eating that way, I actually ended up a lot sicker and wasn't really able to eat, period. So I just really had to figure out what my body was really working with and happy with and properly digesting and fueling me mentally and physically. So a lot of fruit, a lot of meats, and that's really it. I don't eat any processed food, like ultra processed food,
Mhm.
obviously processed food, but because I think that's something else people don't realize what processed food actually is. But
Mhm.
just a generally healthy diet. I like to think if God didn't make it, then I don't really want it. So
I love that. Yeah, I love seeing you post when you are going to go get your eggs from your chickens. I love your broody little hens, the ones that escape every day.
it's gross.
They're so cute.
Thank you.
And you make your own bone broth. Like I think it's really cool that, food is medicine,
Mhm.
and I don't think people realize that as much as they should, because also like if what you're eating could be poisonous, like you really are like poisoning your body. It's funny, some people will be like, are you a nutritionalist? I'm like, no. but one of the pillars to health is eating a sustainable nutritious meal
Mhm.
and a really good plate, and I love fruit and protein, so I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you had to like eat certain way during different phases of like, were you trying to mimic like the cycle? I know a lot of people really are into like eating during your luteal phase, like the different nutrition requirements, or did you feel like just as long as it was something that God had made, like it was sustainable for you?
As long as it was healthy in a sense,
Yeah.
then that was fine. Some days, obviously, I'd end up hungrier than others, which could have been based on what should have been at that time in my menstrual cycle, and obviously, I'd honor that. But it's just really listening to your body. What is it hungry for? What are you craving
Hmm.
mentally, and what are you craving physically?
Hmm.
And having that connection and understanding of like what it is that your body is truly wanting versus what we are kind of programmed
Mhm.
to crave,
Yeah.
because obviously if you are constantly eating unhealthy foods, you're gonna crave unhealthy foods.
Mhm.
But once you get on track and it's normal for you, you'll be in tune with your body and really understand what it is that your body wants and needs.
I love that. So like intuitive eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so rad. I completely agree. Everyone's always like, what diet should I do? And it's really like, well, you gotta, I feel like it's a lot of trial and error and
Hmm.
figuring out what works best for your body, but intuitive eating always is the best thing. I wish I had a grocery store in my kitchen so I could just go and like pick a
Me
peach
too.
or some cherries or
Yeah.
broccoli.
Yeah. And something else I did, which obviously I don't know exactly what it was that I did. Like, obviously, there's no magic button I pushed, but I also started limiting endocrine disruptors. Like, I used to be a
Mhm.
big old Bath and Body Works girl, but little did I know what that was doing for me. And now my husband thinks he has to wash his clothes with Tide Pods, and if he hugs me, I'm like, ugh.
Mm-mm. Yeah, you're like, you do not smell as good as you think.
No. He was like, I have to mask it. And I'm like, no, you've trained your nose to think that's what you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, absolutely. I totally feel you. It's hard to get your whole family on board. Have you noticed
Mhm.
that too? Yeah.
So hard. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, so say I go to a family member's house and they have a plug-in or something, like, okay, every now and then, like, it's their house, it's their life. I'm not going to make a deal out of it. It's okay.
Mhm.
But as long as we acknowledge that and are knowledgeable about what it is that's in our error, I feel like that's really the key. We don't have to be perfect 100% of the time, but if we know about it and we do know what we're doing, then we can create balance there. That's a big thing that I believe in is balance. We don't have to be perfect.
Totally. I'm all about like progress over perfection and
Yeah.
the 80-20. And then I'll be talking to other physicians who are like 90-10, and I'm like, dude, I'm an 80-20 right now. I'll try to make it that way. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so nutrition, do you feel like that was the biggest, and the mental component, which is so strong? Do you feel like those were the two key pillars that got you back on track and got your menstrual cycle? How long did it take you?
Um, so I wouldn't say I really started trying. Hold on, I'm thinking back. I'm like looking into space as if it's telling me. I think I made that mental shift like maybe 5 months from the mental shift.
Mhm.
But what I was really having trouble with from when I first started, because I had been trying for a year and a half maybe,
Mhm.
and I just kept going back and forth. Like there was nothing I was really sticking to. So, like I said, like at one point I was trying to eat a higher fat. I was eating a paleo diet and it just naturally came with high fat foods. But
Mhm.
once I really stuck to that mindset and that way of eating, and then less working out on the back end, like some days I would work out harder than others, but not putting that mental pressure on myself, like I have to burn this many calories according to my watch and I have to resistance train today. I started doing more walks and yoga and Pilates and just really had to find more ways to move my body rather than grind it into the ground.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy how powerful walking is, and we don't talk about it enough. Like I've got to be honest, because I think you're 3 hours ahead of me. I'll see you like right when I pop on, and I'm like, Ashley went on a walk. I'm gonna go on a walk. So, do you walk twice a day? How many miles do you get in? Do you think that's important?
Um, I don't have like a specific goal that I try to hit every day because like I said, like every day is different. I want to honor whatever my body's telling me I need that day. But I really try to get in at least a short 15-minute walk early in the morning.
Hmm.
And throughout the day, obviously I work from home, so I'm sitting down all day long and I cannot sit still for the life of me. So I frequently stand up and I do jumping jacks. A lot of days I have a goal of doing 500 jumping jacks a day, whether I break that up into 100 every few minutes or whatever. But I also have a walking pad, which is the best investment that I've ever made, I feel like. And
Totally.
I can take calls while I'm walking. I have a really hard time like typing, but yeah,
That's a skill.
I do like to just take breaks throughout the day, and I like to take a midday break to go to the gym if that is something I'm feeling like my body needs and wants that day. And right now, that's something I'm really trying to get back into is going back to the gym because, like I said, do have my period back, I do finally feel healthy again, and I feel like my body is able to take on that extra stress.
Yeah, exactly. It's like whatever season of life you're in. And I love what you said earlier about people don't realize that you sometimes have to go backwards to move forward. And when you were speaking about having to like, start over again with different diets, it really does feel like a setback, but one
Yeah.
step back could be three steps forward. And
Mhm.
that makes so much sense. Because now you're feeling good enough to go back in the gym, which is something that was a big goal for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I love talking to you about all this stuff because you really are making a huge difference for people who want to be in this space and who want to like be the best versions of themselves, not just physically, but like mentally, like emotionally, like spiritually. I love that you like bring, like your relationship with God into it because it's so powerful. Like whenever I'm working with patients, like I do say like, how do you self-soothe? Like who is like a higher power that you talk to? Because like you need someone that was going to walk with
Yeah.
you in this journey to get home to yourself. Yeah. So I think that's so powerful.
hmm And once again, it goes back to if I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it to glorify God. And it's his body, his temple. He created me. If it's not for me, it's for him.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So when you were talking earlier about like I'm feeding my baby, I was doing these like colon hydrotherapy. It's kind of like a medical
Yeah.
enema, and the woman would always rub my stomach and say, thank you, body. And it was crazy how much my body would release when it was thanked, or it was like I was speaking to it, or she was
hmm
speaking to it. Really, she was speaking to it, but I was in my head, I'm like, thank you, body.
Yes.
And
I'm so glad you're saying this.
and it was like instantaneous that I would have like this big release because I would be feeling like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. And then and then I would have it happen. And so like for me, like whenever I'm having like digestive issues, like I just kind of go back to like thank you body, thank you body. And
hmm
it's interesting how powerful like talking to
Yeah.
myself can really like uplift my whole totality of health.
Yeah. Just showing yourself love and like thanking your body for everything it's been doing for you. Like, even though I did go through some hard health issues, I could say, I hate you. Why did you do this to me? But instead, I say, thank you for holding me together and getting me through this. And another practice that I really like is when I journal, I often journal to myself. I write out a prayer, or on this topic, I could write a letter to my body, thank my body, and
Mm.
ask it for what I need in the day and thank you for everything it's giving me.
That's so powerful. Do you feel like when you're journaling, like you have like downloads of like, okay, this is what my body needs, and like you can connect with yourself a little bit better?
Yeah. So when I go into journaling, a lot of times I don't want to. But as soon as I start writing, it just clarifies everything that I need, whether it be short term, like literally right that second, or long term, 10 years from now. And it really brings out the nitty gritty, as I would call it. The
Yeah.
things that I really wouldn't just think about just throughout the day, but it just naturally comes and you don't even realize that you have these thoughts in your head, but obviously they're stored in there somewhere. So it's really good to get them out on paper and identify what you actually need.
I freaking love that. You've given me so many like clinical pearls and things that I just like want to marinate on. Like, yes, 1,000% yes. And I hate journaling. I'm not gonna lie. And I tell
Me
people like
too.
it's yeah, I'm I will write 1,000 notes on like a lecture, but when it comes to having to write down like my inner thoughts and like unlock my subconscious, like I don't know why we have that block, but the block is like exactly where you need to show up for yourself and
hmm
to work through it. Do you feel like a lot of people are disconnected from their bodies and journaling's a way to like connect back?
I do. I think a lot of time, especially in bodybuilding, we're only focused on what you see externally because obviously that's what you're working for. You're being judged on what is seen externally. But once again, that can't be sustainable if we don't focus on what's on the inside. And ultimately, we're built from the inside out. So if we don't really dial in to what we feel inside, then we can't perform our best on the outside and we can't show up for ourselves the best on the outside.
Yeah, that's so true. It really is like I feel like the mental game is one of the hardest pursuits, but it really is if you can master it and master it day by day, second by second, it really takes you to the finish line.
hmm
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, I love chatting with you. I want to do another Instagram live with you. But how can people get a hold of you and so they could do like a program with you?
Well, my DMs are always open if you want to DM me, but I also do have a link in my bio, of course. If you want to fill out an application, we can get to know each other and we can hop on a call. First call is free, 15 minutes, and yeah, we'll just see where you're at if we're fit for each other. I coach all seasons of bodybuilding, whether you're a lifestyle bodybuilder, you're recovering from a tough
Mm.
post-show issue like I was. Maybe you're mid prep, you're thinking about competing, all of the above.
I do chronic complex
Mhm.
disease, so like Lyme disease, long COVID. So I love connecting with people, and I'm so lucky that I got to connect with you in the health space of like, how do we prevent chronic complex
Mhm.
disease? Because I really think that I don't want people, I'm thankful to like be of service to people, but
Yeah.
I wish people didn't need me. And
Exactly.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, I love prevention, but a lot of the times people don't want to, invest in their health until they have no other choice. And
That's
so,
unfortunate.
like, yeah, and so you just taught me so much, and there's so much I want to marinate on today. So I'm really excited. I would love to do another live with you. So
Me
thank you so
too.
much for
I
coming on
can't call
today.
today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll definitely connect soon. And thanks everyone for
Thank
joining.
you.
We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.